Hi everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Endless Celts Podcast, our New Year special. And as you can see, it's an extravaganza. We're bringing back again our first on video. I'm joined by William, Ross, Anthony, and Francis. How are you all?
Yeah, all good.
All good, mate. Good, mate.
I'm all good, Stephen.
Yourself, Anthony? Good man.
How are
good
you,
man.
Stephen? How are you getting on, kid?
I'm fine. It's going to hopefully a cracker show tonight, Ross. So we'll get straight into it. And obviously, people will notice that my co-host John is missing. That's because his jaw is playing him up. Toothaches and all that. He's dosed up with paracetamol painkiller, so he's decided to drop out. But we all wish him well from everyone on the podcast. And this is kind of our review, gentlemen, and in the Postecoglou's first 6 months in charge of Celtic Football Club. I'll come to yourself first, William. Now, Postecoglou, when he first came in, our podcast leading up to that were a bit iffy. Let's be honest here. A wee bit kind of up and down. And he's fairly come in, and up to now, he's took the Celtic by storm, really, both on the pitch and off the pitch in terms of supporters unite with the team. And one of the first hurdles that faced him was European football, and quite early on, we exited the Champions League. There was a lot of disappointment, but we did get through to the Europa League group stage, and for me, that was one of the final points of the season. European football back at Celtic Park, and a confidence boost to the team that was depleted from that season.
Yeah, well, I feel like we've got half a squad now, and back then, I don't even know what you would call it. So to get to the Europa League was, it was good for us as a club. Ange coming in's been unreal. I honestly think he's going to be up there by the end of his tenure. Hopefully, it's going to be in a long, long time. I think he'll be up there in the folklore with the O'Neills and Rodgers. The style of football he's implemented since he's come in, and the way he is with the media is there's been nobody like him. He puts every person in his place. There's never been a question that's been put to him where I've thought, oh no, like we used to get with Lennon every post-match interview last year, where you sit on your head in your hands, and just a complete polar opposite. I think there was a bit of trepidation at the start, and it was because of the unknown. It wasn't like we were bashing him or thinking it was world's worst appointment. I think that we were all hanging on the coattails of Howe for so long, and it was dragged out, and the media were telling us so much, like every single day that it's happened, he's there, it's signed, it's all done, and it was dragged on for so long that we kind of had that in our hearts, and that was taken away from us, and Ange was thrown at us within hours. So it was. I think it was kind of a bit of the unknown. Now I think it's the best thing that could have happened to us as a club. Ange has been nothing short of unbelievable since he came in. He said it himself that in these 6 months there's not been a week where there's not been some sort of curveball thrown at him, and to be where we are in the position we are with a league trophy, with a trophy already in the bag. If you told me that when we were in that turmoil with the house situation in the summer or the tail end of last season, I would have laughed at you, because we were in a bad way, and the turnover in the squad has been incredible, and the fact that we've already got a trophy in the bag and we're looking good only speaks volumes of what Ange has done since he's joined the club.
Yeah, I mean, winning trophies, William, brings success, and it proves you're hungry. Unlike other clubs who say after one trophy, that's it, I'm kind of full up, which again is just baffling. But coming to yourself, Ross, I mean, you look at the European landscape side of things, we were disappointed in Europe that the previous campaigns. I know what you're saying. We were disappointed in Europe the previous campaigns. We didn't really fulfill our potential. And again, yes, we got pulled out of the Champions League. I always believe we should be there at some point in the future. But just to get the Europa League, for me, as I said to William, and he made some great points, it was vital for that team, because William touched upon it. That squad back then was more depleted than it is now. There was fringe players like Dane Murray played in some qualification games. There was young players being called up left, right and centre. It just proved to me at that time Postecoglou knew how to manage his way of a bad situation.
To get Europa League football, when Ange came in and the squad that he had at his disposal, it was a great achievement. I think even going into who was it? I forget the name of the team that we played.
Midtjylland.
In the
Alkmaar.
Midtjylland.
Midtjylland.
Before that game, I remember me and Anthony at the time saying in the group chat and stuff, look, it's a bonus if we get there. And you didn't want to dismiss it. You want to get to the Champions League, but realistically, it was very difficult. And I felt that if we got Europa League, it was a great achievement. And to go and do what we've done, to get through against Alkmaar, and it was backs to the wall in that away tie. It was backs to the wall, and you have to take your hat off to some of the young guys that got us there, who are for the most part no featuring now, but they done a job and they carried out the instructions that Ange had asked them to do, and I think we gave a really good account of ourselves in the Europa League. I mean, obviously, we lost a lot of goals, but I think we caused teams problems, and it was like we've always alluded to, it was early in our journey. But I think probably that time in the Europa League next year, I think we'll, if it is Europa League, it might be the Champions League. Hopefully it's the Champions League, but if it is the Europa League, I think we could do a hell of a lot better in that tournament than what we did this year, because we'll be progressed further, and you can just see the team progressing all the time. But obviously, best case scenario, we want to be in the Champions League, having secured the league title.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's everyone's aim this season, to get that league back at Celtic Park. But Francis, one thing we did notice was Postecoglou's style of play. Very early on, we were warned by journalists in Japan and Australia that it was gung-ho. We conceded goals. We did. Ross was right to say that, especially in Europe. I think we're top joint highest conceding goals, which isn't good enough, obviously, in terms of Celtic Football Club. But in the league at the time, we won a few games 6-0. One against Dundee. I think the other one was St Mirren, if I remember correctly. But what is the biggest improvements you've seen regarding the team, especially playing this way?
I think they look fitter, and you've got like a style of play. You've got an identity. You can see what he's wanting to do, how he wants us to play. Yeah, it seems to maybe be a wee bit stubborn in the sense it's plan A or do plan A better. But I think at the weekend, obviously, he showed that he's wanting to go free at the back. A lot of that was forced on him with personnel and stuff. But he's also comes across a manager that, well, not comes out, he comes across as a manager that will work with what he's got, in the sense that he's not brought any backroom staff in with him, apart from one we've got, like, is it the fitness guy or something like that that's came in fairly recently. But as in, like, guys in the dugout, so to speak, he's working with what he's got. And I think if you actually looked at the majority of the signings and the way that Postecoglou plays, I would say more than half of these signings weren't his guys, so to speak, aren't his type of player. Like, obviously he rubber stamped it, but I don't believe, as good as Joe Hart has been for us, I don't believe he's a Postecoglou style keeper. I think you would actually argue Barkas or Bain is more a Postecoglou type keeper, which is good at their feet, but Barkas and Bain didn't kind of be a goalkeeper. That's partially the problem. And Juranovic, I would argue, is probably that's a Postecoglou signing. Obviously, Kyogo's a Postecoglou signing. Jota's the type of player, Abada, and apart from that, I'm struggling to really think who would be his style of player, because Starfelt, although he brought in, he's not really a ball-playing defender, is he? Carter Vickers as well isn't really a ball-player, so it seems like he's obviously worked off the scouting network, and he's trusted other guys, so I'm really confident in the guy, and as I say, just our style of play, the fact that we've got, you can see an identity with what we're trying to do, where we'll get to, giving this guy the tools, give him time. Obviously, results will determine that a lot, but I can't. We won cup in the cabinet already. It's like you say, it's got to be success, and I really just think in time we will have a really exciting football team for a good few years. While this guy's in charge.
Yeah, I mean, I think every team he's been at, I think Brisbane Roar in Australia, people describe that team as the best football team they've ever seen in Australia. So if he could bring that type of thing to Celtic, Francis, then we'll all be loving it. And as you said, a trophy in the cabinet already just speaks volumes to the man. But Anthony, round about that time, there was a rough patch hitting the league. We lost our first Glasgow Derby game against Rangers. We lost to Livingston round about that period as well. And things seemed to take a wee bit of a downturn domestic form-wise. People were starting to question Ange and his methods, that kind of thing. But one thing that stood out to me was he never done what Lennon done, and he came out in the interviews, it was bitterly disappointment, or making excuses for pitches. He never made an excuse for the team. Postecoglou said, "We're not making excuses here. We're here to win. We'll keep working and working." And for me, that's came to the fore, especially now when we look at the form up until, the Christmas break there.
Yeah, even in a post-match interview against St Johnstone, he was obviously asked about, injury problems and were injuries going to hamper him going forward in the season. And as always, they got that shrug of the shoulder, that dismissive sort of look, and he just says, "We'll just go on with it." Even if the wider sort of issues weren't happening with COVID, etc., and the games had been going ahead, we've been facing Hibs and Rangers before the break with a weakened squad. There's no two ways about it, but we would have found a way to just get on with it. And if we'd have lost the game, there would have been no excuses. If we'd have won the game, we'd have, us lot would have partied twice as hard. But no, I've been very, like the rest of the guys, Stephen, I've been very impressed with him. Can't say I was too, but I didn't know much about him, didn't really know anything about him until he came to the club. But yeah, he's just been a breath of fresh air and 100% in the trophy, mission so far, 1 out of 1. Here's hoping that that number grows as the season goes on.
Well, Anthony, I mean, you did make a great point, but just looking back on what you said there, why do you think the press seem to have an issue with Postecoglou? I find that when I look at it from my angle, it's a bit ignorant, a bit stupid and naive of them to believe that Postecoglou doesn't know anything about football because he managed in Japan on Australia, and he's handled that pretty well. But looking at it from my point of view, do you think there's an actual bias towards Celtic managers in that sense?
Yeah, 100%. There always has been, and it was something that we almost accepted rather meekly. I would argue, if you go back to the history of the club, until sort of Jock Stein took the reins. That's not to sort of criticise, Willie Maley or anyone else that was still in there, or Jimmy McGrory or anyone like that. It was just that was the wider societal issue at the time, and until Jock came in, the Celtic were very much an easy target, and that culture has existed within the media for a long time. It goes back decades, probably to even around the time of the formation of the club, and those habits are proven, unfortunately, quite difficult to weed out. So it didn't strike me in the slightest that Ange has been subjected to this sort of culture of a kind of sneering. They think they know better in media. Ange Postecoglou has more knowledge in his little toe than the entire Scottish football fourth estate have as a collective, and I think they're finding that out the hard way. And I can only say, as a supporter, I'm absolutely loving watching it unfold.
Yeah, one of the most things I remember.
See, for me, Stephen,
ahead,
I don't know if I'm reading too much into a comment, but see, I think it was in his first interview where a journalist asked him about managing at the highest level, and he was like, "Oh, you're assuming I've not managed like a World Cup at the highest level and stuff like that." I think for day one, after that comment, I just think they thought we're going to try and trip this guy up, and he's had their number for the very first day, walked through the doors and stuff, and I think that upped a lot in the media, that comment when they obviously talked about managing at the top level, and he obviously talked about managing at a World Cup and stuff. Came back that quick, so I think that's upped a lot in the media.
Yeah, I think as well.
I don't think it's just a Celtic manager thing. I just think it's just the media. That's what they do. They ask these questions. I don't think it's like an attack on Ange himself. I think it's just that's what they're paid to do. They want to get that reaction out of a person to make a headline, and Ange just doesn't give them it. Every time he just absolutely just slaps them in the face, pretty much metaphorically, and says, "Right, go sit down, son."
I don't think it's
smash your bottom on you go. Where you go.
I don't think it's all Celtic managers that like, no disrespect. Like, you look at Rodgers, you look at Martin O'Neill. I don't think that they always got that, but like certainly guys like Ronnie Dyla and Ange Postecoglou who have come in for like pretty much nowhere, unknowns. You can understand the sort of, for want of a better word, disrespect. like we all had our reservations when he came in, but we never once thought he didn't know football. We just thought, has he got the experience? Does he know what he's doing? But I think he's proved it in spades that he absolutely does. And I think someday, I can't remember when he's there, alluded to Brisbane Roar playing the best football that country's ever seen. I don't think we're far off in the 6 months. I'm not saying the best of all time, but I think the football, certainly when he first came in, like I was totally taken by it, like blown away at times. See that when we beat Dundee, we beat St Mirren, and I think we were 3-0 up or maybe 3-1. We beat Hearts in the Cup. It was like 3 games in a row. We totally blew every team off the park. Granted, we beat Hearts 3-2, but the football in the 3 games that we were playing, I was like, we're back. That's it. Celtic are back, because it was unbelievable.
The half hour away Hibs as well.
Like,
the half hour
Hibs
as well.
I've been loved this club ever since I can remember. Being going to the stadium and watching us play, and the games in particular mentioned, and Franny said I was going to say as well, the first half hour against Hibs away at Easter Road, and I'm like,
oh wow,
that says, if not up there with the best football we've ever played in my generation. Anyway, the football he's got us playing going forward is unbelievable.
Scintillating.
It is. I think added to the fact as well, he's got wingers again, and we've missed wingers for ages. The pace, the taking players on, whipping balls in as well. But before we get on to obviously that, William, one of the key things that Postecoglou had to sort out when he came into the Celtic Football Club was the disharmony between supporters, even players on the pitch. Certain players wanted to leave. We all knew who it was, the boardroom. And one thing he done from day one, people like Ross bought into his methods straight away. They've seen the way he played, even during pre-season. You can see bits and pieces of it in the games we've seen. But how important do you think it was to get the fans back on side? Because I know we've seen the protests, but they're still turning up in their droves, 60,000 every 2 weeks, and then they're selling out the away allocation, supporting the team like they used to. And for me, that's one of the most important things of the whole season so far that I've seen.
Definitely, I would probably say it as the most important thing. The staying, or what's the word I'm trying to look for, the relationship between the fans and the club. Before he came in I would even say the last year, maybe the last 6 months, it was as low and as bad as I've ever seen it. The whole house saga, the lack of information, the lack of a face, a front man to come and tell us what was going on. I mean, the reason we started this podcast was so we could rant and vent our frustrations about it, and we did for months and months. It's incredible how one man can just fix that damage between, because it has been one man, and it's, for me, it's been two big factors. The way he's got the team playing, the Celtic way, the way we've been brought up, seeing it, flair, attacking flair, wingers, beating players, just beautiful football, the way it should be played, and the man himself, a humble man, a man that takes no shit, for lack of a better term, and he'll defend us to the hill. He'll die for us every time he's put in front of a mic, and he gets asked a very awkward question. All that's on his mind is defending this club and defending the way he believes football should be seen and should be played. And I'm not that way inclined, but you just definitely would admire him enough.
See the way he defends us at times, though. It's so aloof. It's like, mate. Do you know what I mean? And there's no, like, what are you talking about, mate? Can he hang, like,
see the thing with that as well?
It's a wee patronising, I think, when he says that. In a good way.
Because Lennon, I think Lennon, like, I know he was, like, obviously the downfalls in that last year, but I feel like every time he was put in front of the mic, he was trying to defend the club. It just didn't come across that way, and Ange is just the polar opposite. Mm-hmm. He is defending the club, and it comes across the right way. Lennon, it felt like a bit more like it was a personal thing. He's trying to defend himself, but there was times where he would defend the club, and I'd be like, he's a Celtic man, and obviously he is. But Ange just does it with absolute class. The way Rodgers did.
seeing Lennon's defence, by the way, see before it went wrong, when Lennon defended the club, it was fully it wasn't in the same way as Ange. Ange, like I've said, he was aloof. Lennon was fully passion because he's got more a lifetime connection with the club. And when it was going well and Lennon was defending the club, it was beautiful. It was beautiful to watch. Ange it's going fairly well. He's went through a serious bad patch. Lennon, he's got obviously other issues that we'll go over. But aye, when it was good and Lennon defended the club, it was beautiful.
Well, you say we haven't had a serious bad patch. So I'll come to yourself, Francis, for this. Now, what we've seen recently is there has been a few bumps in the road along the way. Let's be honest, but we've developed a way to win games ugly, and in the sense of Postecoglou's style, it hasn't really been seen. But we're still winning games. We're grinding out teams. We're tearing teams out with the way we play at the moment. Do you think that's just as important as winning games? Flashy, entertaining, 6-5-0. For me, that's a sign of champions when you're winning 2-1 away at St Johnson, 3-1, whatever it was. It has to be like that sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, it was obviously the Aberdeen game was where we said one of the first times he said Ange actually won ugly up at Pittodrie. And no team, even like the teams like Man City and Barcelona, they'll not win every game playing absolutely scintillating football. You've got to have to grind out some games because, as we've seen recently, teams are just going to sit in with boys with 10 men behind the ball, and then it's on you to break them down. Yeah, we've struggled at times, but we've came through it at times. So it's just a learning progress. It's like, I wouldn't say Postecoglou's stubborn. It's just he's new to the league. He's probably got to have to understand. Like, he's probably not really been with many teams where the opposition just sits in. As happy to sit in for 90 minutes and try and nick a draw or try and nick a wee win at the end of the game. So he maybe at the early stages had to try and adapt to that. He probably expected teams to come out eventually and play against them. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, you've definitely like every team that wins the league are going to win quite a few games in that season, are going to win it ugly way, scrappy 1-0 or like a scrappy odd goal victory. So it's good that he's now got that, and it says it's not just for Ange, it's for the team. When they see they can win ugly, it gives them a wee bit extra confidence just to keep going. Because you see the Ross County game where Ralston scored in the 125th minute, and that it was it wasn't a great game of football, but you just got to keep going, and they'll believe they'll get a chance, and then just get a goal. So scrappy ones that just you've got to be able to grind out results to win a title.
I just clocked what you said there, 125th minute. Very, very, very well done. But I mean, coming to yourself, Anthony, the way you look at it, I've got down here my topic list that I sent you guys out we're going to speak about is the team standing tall. And I simply put two players beside Anthony, Cal McGregor and Joe Hart. We'll have to talk about these guys because for me, I think they've made such a big difference. McGregor stepped into that captaincy role amazingly well. Joe Hart's come in, former England #1, and I have to admit to you guys, I've told you this before, I did not like him one bit before he joined us, but he's totally flipped me around. Anthony, what's your opinion on these guys, especially the importance to them for this team?
Well, we'll start with the captain himself. I think he's back to that sort of form that we've seen that he sort of was brought so often under the likes of Brendan and Neil, and he's sort of first season back as manager. Stephen, I think he was the outstanding candidate to take over the captain's role from Scott Brown, and so far he's more than for stepping into his shoes perfectly by getting that first trophy at the first time of asking. So, like I said earlier, long may that continue. There is obviously some, a few people that are still aren't sure because he's not the traditional kind of captain in the terms of the ranting and raving at his teammates and all that kind of thing. But there's all different ways of showing leadership, and no one will ever tell me that David Beckham wasn't a good captain for England or something, someone like that. You could even argue to an extent, when you think of maybe guys down south, I actually think that, Steven Gerrard, I'm not talking ability-wise, but I'm talking about the way he leads. When Steven Gerrard was England captain, like Beckham before him, he wasn't a ranter and a raver. He led by example. He was maybe a little bit more passionate when he was playing for Liverpool, but that's, understandable. But I just think he's been absolutely magnificent, and I'm delighted that, that he took up the offer of the captaincy, because it will hopefully stave off the interest for him from down south, because you even see it for Scotland as well. Some of the performances he's been putting in, anyone down south not considering them for their team wouldn't be doing their job properly. But hopefully he's with us, hopefully for the rest of his career. In terms of Joe Hart, listen, I remember being on here the first podcast after we lost the opening game to Hearts at Tynecastle, and saying that it was now a case, it was almost, we were reaching emergency levels of crisis in terms of the goalkeeper, because I says it didn't matter how well we played from defence into attack, provided you had Scott Bain or Barkas in goals, we were essentially, gifting the team, the oppositions, at least a goal of a head start, because their confidence was absolutely gone. I'm not denying these guys have got talent, of course they do, but sometimes it doesn't work out. You've seen some of the saves that Barkas made for Athens before he came. You can understand why he commanded such a fee, but it's just not worked out. It's as simple as that. And Joe Hart, you've got a 4-time Premier League Keeper of the Year. Guy won, I think, was it 80-odd caps for England, Premier League winner, FA Cup winner, regular in the Champions League. And you can even see the way he conducts himself on the pitch as well. He shows that the kind of sort of traditional sort of kinds of leadership as well. He's always talking to younger members of the squad. He's always running over to Ange to pick up the latest instructions and to pass them on, especially at the back. And also as well, which it's maybe not the most important thing, but it does always help. You can see the absolute love that he's got playing here. We all going well, we'll have him between the sticks for a few number of years now. You could see it in his eyes when we won the trophy against Hibs. He just loves being here. He's always posting on social media, but he loves the connection between the players and the supporters. And for all his won lots of stuff down south. Manchester City are never known for being the most raucous, passionate fans in the world. Spurs are Spurs, aren't they? They're very much the same. So he's probably never played for a club with such a fanatical following. And he's been one of our best signings. And as I say, I'm just glad he's here. And like Callum, I hope he finishes his career here.
Yeah, 100%. I'm 100% behind what you said there. And Ross, what do you said about these two players? I mean, you could add in maybe the likes of Ralston, Beaton, more experienced players in the team. They've really stepped up this year and they've made themselves counted. And even Beaton the other day against St Mirren, he was captain. He done it really well. I think he said in his press conference, 2 wins from 2 being captain. It's an easy job. So, I mean, these guys are definitely stepping up, aren't they?
Oh, Beaton, I can't speak highly enough of him now. I think he's been... Every single time he's come into the team for Celtic, I think he's been outstanding. I think for 4 or 5 years, he was judged on playing for Celtic as a centre-half, and he's absolutely miles away from being a centre-half. He's done a job for the team and sacrificed himself and took the flak for years. Beaton is a number 6, and he's a very good number 6 at that. And every time he comes into that team and plays in that role, he's a guy that I want at the club and I want to stay at the club, whether it be a squad player, a first team player. You could look at guys like Johnny Hayes, who were like squad players, and they came in and they done a job and they done okay. I think Beaton does more than okay when he comes in. I think I just really think as a number 6, he's brilliant. For not the way Ange plays, because he doesn't obviously totally suit that, but I think he's been outstanding for Celtic for this season, and I think we can now really properly start judging him as a Celtic player again, and the role that he's back in, and the role that he's accustomed to. As regards Joe Hart, I was one of the guys, probably like yourself, that when he was brought in, I had my reservations. I was very sceptical. His career had took pretty much a nosedive. He had been a good keeper, but even when you look back at, like, say, somebody got a wee budgie? You got a wee budgie, Steve?
That was me, boys. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's Sonny, my little budgie. I totally forgot he was there. I thought we were getting rid of the cats, but no, Sonny's making his presence known.
He certainly
disagrees with everything that fucking boss is saying.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's not made a sound all night, and then when I start talking, get me sharp. Anyway, so Joe Hart, as I said, I was sceptical. His career took a nosedive. When he was I felt he was a good keeper at Man City and stuff, obviously. But then, even when you look at, like, as much as you credit Lee Griffiths with 2 free kicks, I still think, even then, I think Joe Hart was looking like the keeper that he hadn't been previously, because it wasn't like they were in the top corner. He was beaten fairly easily for dead balls. And even at that point, I thought he's not the same keeper as what he used to be. But if he's come in at Celtic, he's had a new lease of life. It's not been perfect. He's had the odd mistake, certainly more with the ball at his feet, which that's why he got Guardiola. That's why he sort of got him out the club. It wasn't suiting him. But I think Franny sort of alluded to it, that he's no an Ange keeper with his feet, but I think it was needs must, and he's came in, and what he's done, Faye came in on the park and most likely off the park for the outside looking in, has been nothing short of absolutely remarkable. And he's never going to be the captain because he's not been there long enough, but as a sort of guy to lean on and a deputy for Callum McGregor, I don't think there's no better man that could have come into the club and helped him transition into the captain that he is becoming. It's just lovely to see, and I think I hope he's at the club for, well, I don't know how long his deal was, but was it
3 years? I think.
3 years. Yeah. Well, there you go. I hope he's at the club for 3 years, because he will be.
Can I just jump in just for 30 seconds, because I know you're probably not talking to me about this anyway.
I am. I was going to.
Just with Joe Hart, because it's not so much his credentials as a keeper and what he's done. And by the way, since he's came in, some of the saves he's pulled off for us has been like, yeah, in the European games, and you're like, oh fucking hell, here's another one, and he's just pulling off, diving at people's
double
feet.
Saves.
And me and Ross have spoken in previous podcasts about, even when he's doing that, he's pulled off worldies. The first thing he's doing is getting the ball, running straight up and trying to start an attack. We feel that it's what he's doing. Other than that, it's his leadership skills, and he's definitely going to be a manager in the future. He's an absolute born leader. The way he talks is the same as when Ange is on the mic. Every post-match conference he's in, I'm hanging on every word he's saying, and he's always saying the right things. He's just been an absolute revelation since he came to the club, and I honestly I wouldn't want anybody else in between the sticks. He's been superb since he came along.
Leaving Barkas.
All right.
I would actually, I tell you what, I would actually rather hear Hart and goal than 3 Barkasses in the goal.
I've started writing our Hart J everywhere.
IDST.
Do you know something, William?
£1 million, £1 million. I know he's like 33 or something, 34, but see when you consider for £1 million, ridiculous.
Brilliant.
I was going to come to you, Trevor Ross. I'll be joke lined up and everything to bring in William, but I wanted to give you a wee bit to talk about Ralston, because you've been very vocal about Ralston in the podcast. You think he's up there with Player of the Year, and he deserves the platform. So far on, he's been vital to the team as well, hasn't he?
100%. to steal some of our famous friend's catchphrase, 100%. He's for me, honestly, and as much as Kyogo's, I don't know if it's maybe just because of the transformation as a player. For me, he's player of the year. He's been as a right back to score the goals he's got, to get the assists he's got, and the transformation. If you look back at the podcast, coming into the start of the season, Tony Ralston was your only right back, and I was like, this cannot happen. He is the worst right back. Obviously, they had the whole Neymar situation against PSG years ago. I could not believe you were going into the season with him as our only choice right back. I'll let Franny touch on the Neymar stuff. And it just shows you the same thing happened with Forrest under Rodgers. The fans were on his back non-stop. Rodgers came in and turned him into an absolute beast, and Ange's done the same with. I think Ange's been a bit down at hanging himself when he says that it's down to him. I give him the platform and that's it. I think there's a bit more than that to it. He's been absolutely immense for us this year, and we're talking about all these players. Like everybody's been to a man superb for us this year, but just the transformation in the boy. I mean, he's went out on loan. He's an absolute unit. I think it doesn't matter what happens. We could go and beat Rangers in the derby 12-0. Tony Ralston putting Charlie Adam on his arse is going to be the best moment of the season for me.
Got an assist off the back end.
I was about to say Charlie Adam doesn't play for Rangers.
Did any of you see Frank McAvaney's comments recently about Ralston?
Frank McAvaney's the only one that thinks he's rubbish in it.
What did he say?
Here, he said that he went backwards.
He's a boulder or something. Was it the Ross County game or something? He said he played like somebody like a boulder or something. St Mirren game played like somebody just hauled off the street. And it's like the guy's not allowed one poor game.
By the way, see in all seriousness as well, I know he's done a lot going forward, but how many? We've seen at least 3 or 4 occasions where he's made a last ditch, like a keeper, like game changing moments. And
he probably
by the
had one
way,
against St Mirren as well.
Like he's got, he does make mistakes, but there's no doubt in my mind he gives 150% every time he pulls that shirt on and goes onto that pitch. And that's all as fans as we want. Like if you're going to make mistakes, that's fine. I don't mind. If you're giving everything you've got, then fair enough. And that's what I get from him every single game.
I just found McAvaney's comment. Thankfully, everybody just shot McAvaney down, but it was absolutely ridiculous. Basically, one game said he's regressed so much, and you're like, it's one game, mate. You've obviously only watched him in one game.
Every time we talk about Ralston, it brings me back to that podcast when I was on with William and Ross landed me right in it. But look, Randy, coming on to you, obviously, let's talk about some sprinkles in this New Year cake. And we'll start off with Kyogo. And that's an Ange Postecoglou signing. And by God, he's been absolutely immense for me. The best striker in the SPFL by a country mile. He makes defenders look silly with his movement. Defenders don't know how to defend against him, claim he's offside 9 times out of 10, but he's just laughing and winding them up. He's been a fantastic signing for us, hasn't he?
But I think saying he's the best striker in Scotland's gone a bit much. I mean, Morelos is the most sought-after striker in Europe. Every transfer market, as you know. So Kyogo can't be the
Kyogo.
He's got about 24 staying on Kyogo, to be fair.
I know. This is true.
So that.
It's been a tough Christmas, isn't it? I think I'm hunkered down in my chair.
But Kyogo, he's been an absolute breath of fresh air. There's no doubt in that. It's obviously a Postecoglou signing. Like I said, they can't believe nobody in Europe taking a chance on this guy. So he was surprised that they actually be able to get the guy. And like the runs he makes are like they're absolute amazing. His movement. I mean, I know Iniesta's a fair age and stuff like that, but when you're playing with guys like Iniesta, you've got to know what runs to make, because you'll know a guy like Iniesta will find you. So it's no coincidence his movement is absolutely frightening. But I think one of the biggest surprises for me, even like with really good players coming from, like obviously from Asia and stuff, it could maybe take them 6 to 12 months to sort of settle in and stuff, just to the whole new culture and things like that, learning the language and things like that. So it's just hit the ground running. It's on 16 goals in all competitions, 16, 17 goals in all competitions, and a lot of them are big goals like the 2 in the cup final. He scored a fair few in Europe and stuff. And it's like it's never just like the 4th or 5th goal. And again, he always seems to score big goals. You see the difference in our team when he's playing to when he's not playing. It's absolute night and day. So like I just can't speak highly enough of the guy. He's brilliant. Like Nakamura is definitely on the path to coming out of Nakamura's shadow. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with you. And Anthony, maybe a bit controversial here, but is Kyogo better than Dembele, Edward, and possibly the best striker since we've had Henrik Larsson?
It's a tough
Well,
one to sort of answer, to be honest, Stephen. They're all sort of different, very different types of players, to be honest. What I would say, though, is Kyogo's probably in terms of his off-the-ball movement, it's I've not seen that sort of movement from a player off the ball since Henrik. Dembele was a big sort of Trojan, workhorse, and just would always put himself about, and he had such a great touch. Edward, it was more effortless looking. He almost glided over the pitch at times. And you always said you had guys like Gary Hooper as well, who always, were big game players. But it's Kyogo's he's got a bit of everything, really. I mean, I think I said it on one of the podcasts before. It must, defenders, they'd be as well trying to pin a wave to the sand as it is to try to mark this laddie sometimes, because he is absolutely sensational. Especially that second goal against Hibs in the cup final was it was magical. It was fit to win any cup final. And, again, similar to Joe Hart, what I love about him is that he just seems to love playing here. There's just, obviously, us supporters have taken him to our hearts. And he just seems to love being here as well. And, I'm just hopeful this hamstring injury doesn't prove too serious. And hopefully when we get back to playing games again, he's fit and raring to go, because he'll play a huge part in the second half of the season, I'm sure. But in terms of the first half, it's just been a joy to watch him. It really has.
I mean, William, Anthony had his dancing shoes on there, because as a politician does, he danced around that question like crazy. But I'll make it easier for you. Is Kyogo better than... Is he better than Chris Killen, Scott McDonald, Jan Vinegar Hesling? He has to be, surely. Come on here.
No way. No in the air anyway. I was on the post cup final, so like his movement is. I've seen a lot on Twitter, and I've seen a lot on. Stephen, go and take that label off the bottom of your wine glass, man. It's putting me off when I'm watching me shagging. Anyway, Kyogo's
taking
movement.
It back in the morning, can't he? Kyogo's
second goal.
John's got a lot of deleting to do.
When the dog watches you, it's like nothing they're all putting up to Stephen's wine glass. Kyogo's second goal for me, right, was unbelievable, and like there's nobody else in the league and in most leagues that are scoring that goal. But see, the first goal for me, it's his weak foot, and his first touch is unbelievable, and the finish is just as good. If Ronaldo or Messi are scoring that goal, it's getting shown for months and months and months in Sky Sports. It's the boy's movement, and like I said, I've seen a lot on Twitter and stuff like that about comparing him to the King, and that he's the best striker we've had since then. I tell you something, his movement's better. He's nowhere near where the King was or is. I scratch off. But his movement is, I've never ever seen movement like it. It's unbelievable, and it must be a number 10. No one, and it's not a surprise that Rogic has started to play or started to excel now as well when he's got movement like that in front of him. It must be a number 10's dream or a midfielder's dream to play with him, because he's exactly if you're playing a ball and he's going to be on the end of it. He's been an absolute revelation, and the fear I had personally, I don't know about you guys, when like Edward was going, and obviously we had lost Dembele and stuff like that. I thought, where are we going to get the goals from? This guy has just been an absolute breath of fresh air. And like Tony says, it's not just for me. We've touched on about with Ralston as well. It wasn't obviously what he did at the club as a player was like second to none. Like there's nobody better in my generation. But it was the person he was as well, and the loyalty he's shown. Kyogo's the exact same. He's loved being here. The camera pans to him when he's in the crowd and he's clapping. He's out injured. He's the first one at the tunnel at half time, shaking everybody's hands as they're coming in, giving everybody cuddles. And you know, he doesn't even speak our language, and the bond that he's built with the other players, you see it. The end of the cup final, everybody was cuddling him. That image of him and Ange is just when he runs down. It's just like it honestly brought a
Get
tear
in
to
the
my eye.
Wenham in New Year.
I just
got it right this time, Frank.
I was going to say that. I fucked it last time. Got it right this time. What more can you say about the guy? He's your man. He's your number one. I hope to God he's going to be here for years to come. By the way, that rhymed. The Green Brigade might steal that for a song.
And I have to tell you one thing, Willie. Thanks for fucking pulling me up yet again. You never let me do something. Fucking hell. But look, Ross.
Was watching.
I mean, the guys have summed up Kyogo perfectly. I mean, we could wax on about him forever. Basically, he's just a fantastic player, and as William rightly said, like when he's not playing, he's the first down to the tunnel, shaking people's hands. He's bound to the pitch when he comes off. That just adds to the person and the fantastic footballer he is, doesn't it?
I can't speak highly enough of him. I absolutely love the guy. And just to sort of touch on, like, you obviously asked the question, is he better than Edouard? No, I know it was a bit tongue-in-cheek and stuff, but I just think when you look at it, like, obviously we had Larsson and it was unbelievable. But after Larsson left, we tried desperately for a while to try and replace him with guys like Mo Bangura, Timo Pukki, Thomas Rasmussen,
Henri Camara.
Henri Camara. We went through a spell. He just pretty much shit. And then we then moved on and we got Dembele eventually, and everybody compared. Then we get Edouard, and fantastic players. And we've went for Dembele to Edouard to now Kyogo, and I just think we've been very lucky in the last 4, 5, 6 years, whatever it is, and we just enjoy him. He's just a fabulous player. He's a breath of fresh air. He just loves playing the game, and I think he has adjusted to the country pretty well so far, just because of the type of character he is. He's just, I think people at the club have embraced him, and how can you know, because he's just so bubbly, just so happy all the time. And here's hoping that the three his counterparts that come in are similar characters and can hit the ground in the same way that he has. And if they do, it'll only benefit our club no end.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I know there's people going to be watching and listening who will be screaming that we're not mentioning Tom Rodgers or David Turnbull on like a lengthy basis, but that's because we could go on forever about the players this season. I'm just picking out a random few to talk about, so we keep within a kind of structure for the show. Otherwise, we'll be here all night. But I mean, Ross,
I'm no mind's too far away.
I mean, Ross,
don't get it bored, Ross. Can I go to Ross now? Get it bored now. We'll come back.
I'm all right.
Do what you know.
I'm pouring, man. Jeez.
Fine. Right. Yes. That's an absolute shambles. Look at this now. We're off scale here, right? But Franny, I'll come to you here. No, sorry. I'll come to you, Franny, right? Now, we've had a few players come through the door this season. Kyogo's made a big difference. The other guys are George Michael, Felipe Yada. A fantastic addition. He's come in, he's took the game by the scruff of the neck, scored some fantastic goals. I think before he got injured, he was on 5 goals in 6 games. The skills he has is unbelievable. He is the entertaining type, like McGeady was, Maloney was, Scott Sinclair when he first came. High Fedor players like him to add to the team, especially in the wide areas that we didn't have last season.
I think he's very important when you consider like how Postecoglou wants to play. He's vital to that kind of style, and like we've said many a times, he's a Celtic style player. He's a winger that you want to get. Let's see that pint. I want to make sure you've done no more than us yet.
it was the arse of the machine, so I only got like three quarters out it, but we're still looking good, by the way.
It's a good
score.
So it's what you want in a Celtic player. He's that bums off seats type player, likes to get it down, likes to beat a man, and he's got an end product, as we see.
We back in Joe Hart again. Sorry.
Shut up. Well, go ahead.
Like I said, he's got an end product when you look at his assists and goals and stuff, but it's another guy that looks like he loves being here. Like, he never had a great season last year at Real Sociedad, and then he's obviously came into Celtic. He's maybe a wee bit better, and he's a lot better, and obviously a lot of the quality in the league. But also, I think he's loving the fact that the fans have got that connect with him. He seems to have a wee bit of connection with the fans and things like that. So, like, we've said it many a time. You need to buy this guy. You need to do what you can to make sure this guy comes in on a permanent basis. But for where we've got him, I think we've just got to enjoy him, and because he's a really, really good, exciting football player. And I think the McGeady comparison is a pretty good one. It's bang on. Like, McGeady was fully all the tricks and flicks, and then getting to the ball, but also, pardon me, had an end product. But yeah, I absolutely love the guy. Absolutely love the guy. John,
respectable podcast. What a fucking channel you are, eh?
Who gives a hoot, man? It's New Year's. Happy New Year.
People burping, Ross pouring, shambles. But Anthony, you may get them shoes back on again and get ready to start dancing, because we're going to put you on the spot. If it's a toss-up between signing Jota on a permanent deal or Cameron Carter-Vickers, who you have?
Oh, that's a shocker. That's a shocker.
That question. Shambles, that question.
Great question, Stephen. Well, do you know what? One of my biggest frustrations as a follower of politics is the fact that they never answer a question. So I'm going to redeem myself and answer that outright. It's going to be Jota for me every day of the week, and that's absolutely nothing against Carter-Vickers, because I think he's been absolutely fantastic. My only argument that why Jota is more of a priority is we need to have as many attacking options as we can, and him and Kyogo just seem to have this partnership at the moment. It's just that it's brilliant watching them in full flow. I mean, you think back to that game up at Dens Park. I mean, it was just scintillating to watch it. I was down in Manchester that weekend for the derby, and I was watching it in Gary Neville's, the hotel football. And I was like Martin O'Neill jumping out my seat every few minutes. I don't think the staff quite knew what was going on. It was just absolutely sensational. As I say, Carter-Vickers has been as well, but obviously when you take into account that, obviously the big news coming out of the club yesterday was that the main man from France, our superhero, Mr. Julian, is back and ready to go. It just, for me, there are... And obviously, young Stephen Welsh has done great as well. I tell you what, it's like watching the Avengers here, so it is. And I just think that there is more. I just think that it's more of a pressing matter to get Jota. But listen, it's Christmas time, and we can all be greedy. So if there's a way of getting them both, then by all means, Mr. Nicholson, do something worthwhile in that boardroom and get that money spent on the two of them if there's a way of doing it.
Yeah, and obviously William, I mean, Anthony makes a great point, and for me, it would be Felipe Llana who I would choose on the basis when Anthony said Julian's fit to come back. But just to touch upon Carter-Vickers, I think William, he's been absolutely fantastic, and it probably sounds a bit contradicting saying that I would take Llana and stuff but I have my reasons. I think Carter-Vickers has made such a difference. Him and Joe Hart have that previous connection, obviously both coming from Tottenham Hotspur. He strolls through games quite easily in the SPFL. He can pass the ball when he needs to. I've never really seen him being outstrengthed by a striker, which is fantastic to see. So it is a hard decision, and I'm just a bit worried that Celtic won't spend 12 million on two players. That's where I'm coming from. But what's been your opinion of him and his importance to the team?
I think he's been immense since he's came in. I think he's most definitely our number one centre half this year. I think he's got everything you want in a centre half, and especially for Ange's style. Like you said, he's comfortable on the ball. He can pass the ball. He's got a goal in him. He is an absolute unit. He is huge. I don't think I've ever seen anybody shrug him off the ball.
No.
I thought the other night I thought against St Johnstone he was immense, as usual. Honestly, I don't see why we shouldn't be signing both. The revenue we bring in from player sales in the past 3, 4, 5 years far outweighs the expenditure. So I think it should be a priority. Maybe not so. I know we touched upon it when Russell Boyce was on the show about how we should be looking after. But I think if you got these the three guys that's the worst kept secret in from Japan and signed these two on a permanent deal in January, I don't think I'd be too disappointed. I want more than that. Obviously we do. But as a priority by the end of the season, these two guys need to be in. It's not a choice between one or the other. You need to have the two of them in. I think that Big Julian coming in alongside Carter Vickers.
Anthony's first kicking off for William.
I think he just hit somebody with a wrestling move. I think eventually Big Julian, I am a massive fan of. I think Julian and Carter Vickers is a pairing not to be reckoned with. Him and Jota has been unbelievable. It's just lit up the whole. It's like Kyogo and Tony's touched upon it. The relationship between the two, you can see it on the pitch. They've talked about it. Jota said he's learning Japanese. I mean, it's a no-brainer. You've got to do everything you can to sign these two players, and it's not a matter of one or the other or what you need to do it. And 6, by the way, I know 12 million is a lot of money. Seeing the game nowadays, it's absolutely peanuts.
Yeah.
And I reckon if the likes of a Brighton in England, they would snap the two up for that, and it's nothing. And the two of them would make a difference in their side. We've got to sign the two of them. We've got to.
Do you know
For
something?
me, if you sign Jota at 6.5 million, you're making money on. You're making 10+ million regardless.
That's it.
Like you're selling for 10 plus regardless.
The same thing happened with Edward. Celtic you're never ever spending 9 million on a player. They did it because they know they're going to make a profit on him, and they the same way with Jota, especially. Yeah. Maybe not so much Carter Vickers, but with Jota,
I think in worst case you make your money back in Carter Vickers.
Yeah, with Jota, you're making at least 15 million on him, surely, when you sell him in a couple of years' time. But you've got to sign him. It's no brainer.
I mean, yeah, you make a great point. And Ross, I left this week because I think this is interesting. It's something that came into my mind today. Obviously, the rumours coming out is Muir is a done deal. He plays off the left-hand side. He's an option to buy. I think it's 1.8 million euros at the end of the season if things go well. And what that struck to me, maybe they're planning on not signing Jota permanently, and then Carter Vickers coming in for the 6 million. The cheap option would be Muir. The thinking of the Celtic board, in my opinion, would be that. But, I mean, William makes a great point. £12 million in today's game is nothing. But we all have to understand, Celtic have a biscuit tin. There's rust around the seal. It's never really opened. And the most likely solution is Maeda would be the cheap option, albeit he looks a quality player. But what do you think about that? Because it just came into my head today.
I think if Celtic do that, I'll be absolutely livid, to say the least. I agree with Willie. I think that, realistically, possibly we might only sign one, but if you want to be successful, we have to do everything in our power to get the two of them. I wouldn't want to prioritise either, because I think both of them are as important to the team as each other. I think Carter Vickers is he's the best defender I've seen at the club since maybe the O'Neill days, when we're looking at guys like Mjallby.
Even Van Dijk?
Oh God, right, I forgot about him, right, okay. Right. But you get my sentiments. There's not been many through the door for the O'Neill days other than Van Dijk. People going a bit denier. I wasn't convinced by that guy, to be perfectly honest with you.
I like Boyada.
I thought he was beyond shite, that guy, but anyway. But anyway, So I think that
Belgium
basically
international.
Carter Vickers is. Come on, Franny, Belgian international. Behave yourself.
Yes, but
Played about 2 games.
I mean, he's not. In the last 2 internationals.
Aye. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. Guys like Vertonghen and Vermaelen and all the guys were in before him. He's just been drafted in a couple of times. But anyway, back to the Carter Vickers. It's an outstanding. He's been an absolute colossus for us. He came in, and I think that if you don't sign him and you look at a back, well, certainly your 2 centre halves as Starfelt and Julian, I don't think that's good enough. I think that there's no a strong enough dominant centre half. You need at least one of them, I think, still, and Carter Vickers brings that. So, and then you look at Jota. And his understudy at the moment, I know you've alluded to Maeda there, but his understudy at the moment is Johnson. So that's every bit as important as Carter Vickers. I think we need to get the 2 of them in the door. I get what you're saying on the Maeda thing. Personally, myself, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that Celtic will sign Jota. I think that's almost a certainty. Whether they'll sign Carter Vickers, I don't think it's as certain, but I think it's as important.
Yeah.
Can I just touch
totally
on,
agree.
sorry, what Ross said there? I could not agree more. I think
Of course you do.
One powerhouse, one powerhouse and one nice ball playing centre half, like a Vidic and Ferdinand. Carter, CCV and Julian could be your Vidic and Ferdinand.
Aye, I agree with that.
Aye. And
That would be my pairing going forward.
See, flip your Maeda one as well, Stephen. Maybe, like, as much as obviously I want Jota to come in, is it no maybe a wee bit promising that maybe they're forward thinking in case they didn't get Jota in and I've got Maeda there?
Maybe they'll put Johnson out on loan.
I think one of the main issues is we need to understand this option to buy thing. It's still up to the player. That's it. If they say no, then they can't be forced into the move. So we have to be hopeful that Jota wants to join Celtic on a permanent basis, and the same with Carter Vickers.
I think it's more of a. But I think it's the way football is now. An option to buy. I mean, if we had a Yeti and an option to buy, would you have paid $6 million for him at the end of the first season? No, you'd have cut your.
Maybe they're learning from their mistakes.
So this is the way it is. But I think it's the way football is now. I don't think it's just Celtic. I think if you look at deals around the world, majority of them we'll take him on loan for a season with a view to buy him because we want to look at him and see what he's going to do for us for a year.
I get smart
and then
business.
we're going to do that. Yeah, I agree.
Because it's not, you're not just loaning the guy then, or the guy, like, because imagine we're just loaning Jota and then you're going, we'll pay $6.5 million. They're like, nah, he's about 50 million, mate. At least price again, the option to buy and we're agreeing the fee. And with that option to buy, you're not just taking a guy for 6 to 12 months and going, I will like him. Can we get him for this? And it's like, no, you still have agreed this at the start of the deal.
Well, I think as well, guys, as folks, as we know, this is our end of year special, our review in the Postecoglou's first 6 months in charge. And I don't think there's a better way to end it than picking our favourite game where we played well. I mean, you said Easter Road, William, so I'll come to yourself first. What sticks out for you? What kind of game? What result was it?
Well, as a result, it's got to be the cup final. And they 2 goals because, like I say, I don't think there's any. I'm just going to say it. I don't think there's any other player on the planet that would have scored the 2 goals that Kyogo scored. I don't think there's anybody with movement like that. I honestly don't. So obviously that's going to stick out because of the cup, us winning a trophy and all the rest of it. But saying that, Ross has alluded to it earlier. We played Hearts in the cup game. And we all went together to the game and. That first half, we honestly could have scored about 9 goals. That we were, it was breathtaking watching the football. So that sticks out big time. I know it ended up 3-2, but just the football we were playing, we didn't put the chances away. Which, I mean, we've been a bit lacklustre in that in the past 6 weeks or so. But the football we played was like you're looking around, looking at everybody, thinking. What is going on? Like the attacking football we're playing and the intricate play and the interchanging, and there's no wonder teams were like feeling terrorised because the movement was unbelievable, and so that sticks out. But I mean, the cup final, Kyogo's final, it'll always be Kyogo's final because I don't think we actually played particularly well, but 2 moments of brilliance from a world-class striker with world-class movement, and 2 quick pieces of play from our captain and Tam Rogic, who's again been lighting up my life.
Yep.
The way he's playing football is unbelievable. So that obviously sticks out. Kyogo's 2 goals in that final are just...
Yeah. For me, like, I totally agree. I think the cup final sticks out because it's a League Cup in the bag. It's back at Celtic Park where it belongs. It brings success, and we need to keep that kind of trajectory going, William. But Anthony, what are you saying? What's been the game that stood out for you the most?
This is maybe a wee bit sentimental, and then, like you say, you can't argue with the cup final or anything like that. It's a great shout for William, but I must admit, I pretty much enjoyed. I loved the day when we went up to Tannadice and won, purely because we were all sitting hanging in the pub after the Christmas party at the Kerridale the night before.
Some more than others.
Just you can't beat those 4 or 5 bonus pints when you're, when you're on the hangover. It was a brilliant day. Rounded off a perfect weekend.
And by the way, we were electric that day.
Oh no, Franco, we have an unpaid debt that we cannot pay you for taking us home that day.
We were electric that day, and
so I'm going to pick Tannadice. When you think of Tom Rogic and Scales coming on, making his debut, scoring a goal, Tom Rogic and Turnbull were just absolutely magnificent that day. And like I say, bonus pints after a top weekend. Can't beat it.
Yes, 100%. And Ross, what about yourself?
For me, it would probably be, I think it was either 6-0 or 6-1. It was at home to Dundee. I think that's 6-0. When it changed, and we don't get me wrong, Angie's interviews and that, for the first press conference, I was like, I'm on board. I like this guy. I like the way he talks. I like his vision. But that Dundee game, I thought, something just clicked that day. It changed. And I've said it already in this podcast. I think I was like, we're back. This is us. We're back. This is what we want Celtic to be. This is how every Celtic fan wants Celtic to be. And I thought that day everybody knows it was only Dundee. Everybody, the other side will say it was only Dundee, but we were absolutely outstanding that day. Totally outstanding. And we blew Dundee clean off the park. Kyogo was unbelievable. That was the first game where I thought, wow, we've got a player here. I think he got a hat-trick that day. Wow. And we were relentless, and it was the football that he'd said we were going to play. We'll never stop. We didn't stop, and we just totally blew them off the park. They never laid a glove on us, and it was that's when the Ange era, it just clicked and changed for me. And I know we've had our ups and downs, as we were always going to have, but I think we're in the 6 months or so that he's been in charge, I think we've had more ups than downs, and keep it coming, man. It's brilliant.
Speaking about ups and downs, I love reading our group chat on match day. There's always something going on. It's some crap. Franny, what about yourself? What game for you?
Well, initially I was going to pick the cup final just because of the significance of it, but obviously Wally's picked that. Then I was going to pick the Dundee United game because it was the away game where we played really good. And then I was going to pick the Dundee home game. So I'm going to go for Ross County when Ralston became Raldo. There you go.
Tony.
Nice kid. Like it.
By the way, can I just add another one? I wish I actually thought of this, but see the Dundee away game, because
one Anthony spoke about.
No, that was Dundee United.
Yeah, Dundee away. And the goals we scored in that game, especially that goal where Jota drops the shoulder, beats a man, and Kyogo puts it in off the post. That will be goal of the season, by the way. Nothing's beaten that.
Yeah, 100% agree. And obviously, guys, that brings us to the end of our New Year review for Ange Postecoglou's first 6 months in charge. And as we can see, folks, as I said at the start, it's the extravaganza. The whole group's back, bar John, but he'll be back soon, pending on when he gets his jaw fixed. But hopefully that's pretty soon, so he get back on the show. But guys, It's been a brilliant podcast, and from us to the viewers to the listeners, we all hope you have a fantastic new year. You do everything you want to do, because this year has been another hectic year, and I hope everything goes well for everybody. Stay safe, keep well. Hail, hail.
Happy New Year, troops.
Hail, hail.